Welcome to WiseTake.com. This is CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And yes, we are bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It is Thursday, March 23rd, 2017. It's the week before the big FanDuel NBA Live Final. And who better to have on tonight's five-game slate than the Fuego himself, Fuego Steve, who's got himself a ticket down in where is it? Is it Miami? The FanDuel final this year?
Yep, Miami Beach.
Wow. Well, we're definitely gonna be rooting you on. Those of you who didn't get your ticket into the final, if you're looking for a vested interest, here you go. You got Fuego Steve to cheer on and bring home all the money.
I've already had plenty of requests to post the link to the tourney, so check my Twitter feed; it'll be up there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Make sure you at me with one. I'll retweet it on the WiseTake Twitter also, but let everybody see that because we definitely want to have somebody to root on there, and it's certainly going to be somebody that we've come to get to know. So we're definitely rooting for you, Steve.
I appreciate it. I'm going to go try and take it down.
Absolutely, and so we got ourselves another five-game slate for tonight's Thursday slate, and for the first time since we've been bringing you on the pod, there's no Westbrook. I don't know what to talk about now.
Definitely do not put him in half your lineups.
Yeah, although I'll admit, if you could figure out a way to do that, then you're quite talented.
He'll get you a triple-double without playing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, interesting slate. So no Westbrook. So that's going to be interesting. So we'll have to dive into some of these other players. I feel like we've relied on Westbrook to get us through these podcasts over the last few weeks. Not that we've relied on him, but we've had him. So.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking here. I look down. We're gonna start a point guard, and I'm looking. I'm like, wait a minute. Someone under 10,000 is the highest price on FanDuel. Lillard at 9.9. It's like,
right.
What are we doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So. It looks like we're going to have a little bit more to talk about today. So let's dive right in. Steve. So I'm going to go over some injuries first, and then obviously, like always, we're going to go position by position. Starting off, we got Serge Ibaka, who is suspended against Miami, and we did get confirmed that he is going to miss this game against Miami. Whiteside, game-time decision with a finger against Toronto. Dion Waiters is out with an ankle. Josh McRoberts also out. Allen Williams is questionable with an illness at Brooklyn. Sean Kilpatrick is out with a hamstring versus Phoenix. Jeremy Lin is questionable with an ankle versus Phoenix. Seth Curry questionable with a shoulder versus the Clippers. Tony Allen questionable with a knee against the Spurs. And Chandler Parsons, we know, is out for the season. So not bad. A decent list of injury news considering it's only a five-game slate, right?
Yeah, and I mean, looking at, I don't see a lot of Reds and GTDs down there, so we should be able to get ourselves some nice lineups going, and we'll see if value opens up tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% with you. Let's start off with point guard, and the guy at the top. As we said, there's no Westbrook. The most expensive point guard I see is actually, like you said, Dame Lillard, 9,800. What do you think about Dame against the Knicks?
I got a thing for Lillard, man. I seem to play him the right nights, and being that there is no Westbrook, you gotta who's your highest point guard, because many times, if not the center, the point guard's going to be the highest scorer, and I would very much look to try to get him in my lineups here.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I'm with you. And the Knicks, man, the Knicks have given up a long time ago, and I know they're going to limit Carmelo Anthony's minutes going forward just to give their younger guys some time to play. So even with Derrick Rose, I don't know how much run they're going to be giving him. I know he's been playing 30 minutes still, but even that could end at some point. And if that were the case, he'd be matched up with Chase and Randall and Ron Baker. It would be pretty much a dream spot for Lillard. So I'm definitely with you. I think he's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I was looking in the middle of a mini sweat here.
No problem.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing, when you pay up for point guards, you want the minutes, which Lillard is always getting. Last time out, I don't know if that one went to overtime or not. 40 minutes, 54 FanDuel points. Right. 56 FanDuel points with 36 minutes the week before. 40, 47. So he's hit over 44 straight. He's definitely, at first glance, appears to be the best option at point guard.
Oh, yeah. And how much is he over on FanDuel, Steve? I know this week particularly, I know you always play FanDuel, but this week particularly, I know you're focused on FanDuel. I know he's 9,800 on DraftKings. How much is he on FanDuel?
He's actually more. He's 9.9, which I'm a little little surprised, but
Yeah.
right around the same price.
It's justful. I mean, he's been killing it. It's definitely there's a reason. Yeah, he deserves it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if he puts up another 50, the 9.9 is cheap. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what you're getting from the guys that are Westbrook. 51 tonight because they were blowing him out. 9.9. If he gets me even if he gets me 45, and it's a short slate, but with that upside, we know it's there.
absolutely. We got Chris Paul 8,500. He's still cheap, but that's because he hasn't really shown us his ceiling as of late. He's been playing a little bit better lately, but still not quite Chris Paul esque. And now he's got a pace down matchup against Dallas. With he should see a lot of Yogi Ferrell and also JJ Barea, who recently came back. What do you think about Chris Paul 85? And how much is he on FanDuel?
Well, yeah, he's a little more. He's 9.3 on FanDuel.
Wow.
And yeah, and so for 600 more, you can go to Lillard, or we got Lowry who's out. Then you can drop 1,300 down to Dragic. Going against Dallas on the road, he has been playing well. He's put up over 40 FanDuel points, 3 of his last 4, but he's also threw a couple duds in there with under 20. So first look at the slate, I'd rather go up to Lillard, at least on FanDuel, or maybe even down.
No, no, I hear you. There's that on FanDuel. I think you're right. On FanDuel, I don't even think it's really a decision. I think it's Lillard over Paul all day. But on DraftKings, it'll make you consider because that is $1,300 savings, and on
Sure.
top of that, when you look at Lillard, if you look at the spread, the Knicks first of all have been terrible. They've been out west. You kind of expect them to get blown out. The only thing going in Lillard's favor as far as against the blowout is their defense is almost just as bad. So even though the Knicks are terrible, they could potentially keep up for most of the game, which would allow Lillard to hit that ceiling that we're hoping for. So I'm definitely with you. Now I'm looking at Goran Dragic. He's 8K on DraftKings. This guy's been killing me, man. I've been riding him ever since Waiters went down. I played him against Phoenix, thinking he always gets revenge after his old team. And he hates Phoenix, and he is. I know he tried hard. I'm not going to say he's not trying, but he is just off. How much is he on FanDuel, and what's your stance on Dragic against Toronto?
So he's 8,000.
Okay, same
He's
price.
he's come down. I'm assuming because he hasn't been putting up those 40 spots. Well, I mean, at least the last 2, I should say.
Yeah.
Before that, 43, 45. He's always that 40-point guy to me, at least on FanDuel. He's not going to get you 50 or 60, but if he can get you 35 to 40, at 8,000, you'll take that for sure. And he's always seems to be a safe play to me, but not quite as high a ceiling as if you go up to Paul or Lillard.
Right, right, absolutely. No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. To be honest with you, I think I'd rather play Mike Conley. I mean, if we're thinking contrarian, because I would assume that a lot of people have been burned by Dragic. So if we're gonna go contrarian, I think I'd rather play for Conley anyway. I don't think too many people are going to go there. People don't like to target teams against the Spurs, understandably. But the Spurs have been weak, especially recently against point guards. How much is
Right.
Conley over on FanDuel?
Yeah, he's 400 less than Dragic at 7,600.
Mm.
I think like we talked last time. I like Conley. Now this is not the time you normally try to play him in a pace-up game. But like you said, San Antonio, that's a spot you can attack is the guards, and who knows who's playing and who's not playing,
Right.
and if you want, FanDuel where you have to do 2 of them, you do Lillard and Conley, or maybe we'll go down to some of these lower guys. But I like that skipping over Paul and Dragic actually.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I think that makes sense. Tyler Eulis, Derrick Rose, Tyler Johnson. We got 3 guys around the mid-tier area. Eulis is 71 on DraftKings. What's his price on FanDuel, real quick?
Yeah, he's 6.8.
Oh
He's getting up
wow,
there.
it's
Yeah.
still a nicer price than the 7-1. I mean, yeah, it seems crazy that his price would get so high, but you really can't deny the guy's going to get the minutes. We've seen 3 straight games over 40 minutes, so we know he's going to play the minutes. It's got a great matchup against Brooklyn, and what should be a pretty close game. Even at that price tag, do you think maybe he would make an interesting contrarian play because people are going to think, oh, I can't pay that much for Eulis, or do you think everybody's going to be on Eulis?
Yeah, he's going against Brooklyn, so that's the problem, man. Looking here, Conley's playing San Antonio. People probably aren't going to want to go there. Maybe they don't want to pay for Dragic, so they might go down to Eulis, especially on FanDuel where you need 2 point guards, without a doubt.
Right.
Like you said, he's getting the minutes. Without Bledsoe, he's just it's all him.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, so I would imagine even at 71, he'd be somewhat chalky, just because, like you said, the matchup is just even if
That's
Lynn
high though on
plays.
DraftKings though.
Was that?
That's high on
Oh
DraftKings.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Definitely, I'm with you. Derrick Rose is 6,100 now. I know the Knicks have pretty much thrown in the towel, but I mean, other than against the Clippers where he played 28 minutes, he was still getting above 30. We're recording the podcast tonight. The Knicks game has probably just started, so it'll be interesting for those of you to pay attention and see how many minutes Rose ends up playing. It's a back to back, so I would imagine regardless he's not going to get that much run. So even though the matchup is great, I love scoring point guards against Lillard. I just don't know how much faith I have in Derrick Rose playing on a Knicks team that have nothing to play for. What do you think?
Yeah, his ceiling has not been there recently. I mean, he's down to 6,000 on FanDuel. I
Mm.
mean, that's it's probably his lowest price. Um, but I mean, I see a couple 30s over the past five, but all most of them 25s, 24s, 14s. So the ceiling is not quite what you would like. At least that he was hitting earlier in the year for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So we got Tyler Johnson, who's been playing well with Dion Waiters out, even though he's been coming off the bench. We got Corey Joseph, who's actually done a pretty good job taking over Conley's role, at least for the time being. He's got a tougher matchup though against Dragic, although Dragic hasn't been all that great lately. Then we got Dinwiddie, assuming we got Lynn. So Lynn is questionable, and I know Brooklyn said they hope he plays. So if he's healthy, they are going to play him. So Lynn, Dinwiddie, we'll kind of count them together because, in my opinion, they're not too far off. I mean, they're significantly off in price, but it's pretty much if Lynn's going to play, you're not going to play Dinwiddie. And then we got Berea
Right.
at 4.5, who's been getting a lot of run lately. Any of those guys in that area strike interest for you?
Yeah, it's interesting that the past couple of weeks we've talked about FanDuel and DraftKings as opposed to just one site because it makes such difference when you have to play the 2 point guards on FanDuel. I'm always looking at a lower, cheaper point guard if I can.
Right.
So all these guys, Johnson, he's 6.3 on FanDuel, and then Rose, and then Joseph down to 5. I played Joseph recently. I think I've got him right. Dinwiddie at 4.6, I would definitely consider, especially, if Lynn's out. Definitely at 4.6. You can throw him in as your second point guard on FanDuel, and you can do a lot with the rest of your lineup. So all of those guys, at least on FanDuel, are in consideration to me at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Dinwiddie, if Lynn is out on DraftKings, he's shooting guard eligible. That could be beneficial as well. But yeah, I mean, Berea and Farrell, it's going to be tough because I know Berea's minutes have been back, but they've been inconsistent. They haven't all been there. I mean, everybody thought he was going to
Yeah,
get run against Golden State. He only saw, what, 17 minutes?
yeah. I mean, I take that back. Out of all those ones we did mention, I'm the Dallas backcourt. I'm not, at least the point guard spot. I'm not as enamored with as the other ones.
I hear you. I hear you. Is there any other point guards you wanted to go over, or should we move on?
Um, always pay attention to the San Antonio situation. Patty Mills, Tony Parker. If someone's sitting, Mills is always a good play if Parker is out.
That's a great point.
You know,
Great point. Absolutely. All right, moving on to
yeah,
shooting
that's
guard. We got DeMar DeRozan, 8.7 on DraftKings. I'm not sure what he is on FanDuel, but we know that even though the matchup isn't necessarily great against Miami, there's no Ibaka. So now we're back to square one where DeRozan is you assume he's gonna get all the usage, and I'm assuming he's gonna be mega chalky with no other really studs to pay up for aside from Lillard.
yeah. Did you play him the other night? I did not.
I did not. I did not play DeRozan. I was off that bandwagon. I mean, who would have thought that game would have put up 242 points? I figured it'd go over the total. I figured there was a decent shot of overtime. I did not think there would be that much scoring. It was just
Yeah.
crazy.
And then you combine that. I think every winning lineup I saw, it had Butler, DeRozan, and Cousins because he
Right.
went off, and there wasn't that many people on him at all.
Right.
Yeah, he burned some people the other day, last week maybe, when he had a couple down games.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the most expensive on FanDuel at 9,000. But without a Westbrook on the slate, without a Harden on the slate, I think he's going to be definitely very popular.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what you got to remember is he is coming off an overtime game, and he shot 38 shots in that game. He shot wow. That's like I mean, even for him, even without Larry, even before Ibaka, that's a lot of shots. And
Yeah.
you gotta imagine he looked a little before
42
that.
points on 38 shots. That's not the best efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. And a matter of fact, he was 1 for 5 from three. He did get a 7 out of 11. It looks like free throws, but yeah, you're right. He's gonna be mega chalk. He's 8,700. It's tough to say to fade him just because of the spot, but we've seen how many times have we seen people in this kind of situation and just not come through.
Yeah, upon first glance here, we're going to get through the rest of these guys, but if if you're happy with your lineup, I could definitely see fading him out. Being that he's the highest price, being coming off this 60, everyone's going to look at that 60 points,
Hmm.
even and be like, well, okay, maybe he's back. And without Ibaka, I mean, I'm going to have a hard time fading him myself, but I could definitely see the situation if you're really liking the rest of your lineup and we got some guys we're going to talk about here in a second that you think can get close to the what he can put up. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. And there are some guys who maybe don't look as secure. I think in cash games, DeRozan's probably the way to go because he seems the safest with considering his floor, his minutes, and his usage. But in DPPs, if you're looking for a pivot, there's some interesting options. We talked about Lillard. What about CJ McCollum? The Knicks have been horrible against shooting guards all season. McCollum is significantly cheaper. He's shooting guard and point guard eligible on DraftKings, and I believe he's shooting guard eligible on FanDuel, correct?
Right. You got McCollum at 7.8, which is 1,200 less than DeRozan. Then drop down another 900 to get to Booker
Hmm.
at 6.9. Both of those guys, you know, here's how I look at it sometimes. You look at the top guy, DeRozan, and if you think he's going to get 50 or 60, it's hard to fade him. But if you say, well, you know what? Well, what if he gets 30? Well, what if Booker gets 30? What if McCollum gets 30? Well, I'm going to go to the lowest tier, in a tier, the lowest price I can get for that 30, 40, whatever points I'm going to give him. So like on FanDuel where you have to play two, I could see fading DeRozan and playing McCollum and Booker.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I could absolutely see that. And then, you drop down. We got Waiters out. You got Curry. Game time decision. He's
Who?
soreness.
Yeah, I think he has shoulder
Yeah,
soreness or something like that, Curry.
yeah. Um, and then New York, you got Lee Richardson, who's been playing well without Waiters.
Sure.
So I like some of these shooting guards, and if you're paying up, McCollum and Booker are a good pair on FanDuel to pay up for.
Sure, absolutely. Even a guy like Randy Foye has been getting decent minutes, enough for a flyer considering his price. And one guy that's interesting is even on the Knicks, Justin Holiday. He's one of the younger guys. He's played. We don't know what he's going to play tonight, but in three straight games, he's played at least 20 minutes. I mean, against the Clippers in Brooklyn, he played 27 and 25. He's not a big projected points per minute guy, and he's very scoring dependent. But at 3,100, if you're looking for a punt option to be able to afford as many studs as possible, he's certainly viable too. So I see the merit. Even on a site like FanDuel, you might not want to take two expensive shooting guards. You might want to take one value and one stud. So it makes perfect sense, Steve.
Yeah, I think I put Holiday in an after hours lineup here. Yeah, with shooting guards, I think we've talked about the past two. The minutes. If they're getting minutes, they got a chance at the points.
Sure.
And you go down. You even got Redick at 4.4, Crab at 4.3, Levert at 4.3. So there are some shooting guards down there that could get you, the 20, 30 that some of the other ones could get you as well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. 100% right. Any other shooting guards you wanted to touch on?
Um, I'm not loving any of them. The Green Ginobili guys from San Antonio, I will punt with them sometimes. Crawford, I think, has been getting some minutes for the Clippers. Yeah, 30, 29, 28. So but he just hasn't been, he's only broken 20 points once. But shooting guard, like we've talked about, that night could be the night he hits 30, 40. So all those guys are in play on FanDuel, especially if you're paying up for other positions, in my opinion.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Small forward, we got Kawhi Leonard 9-2. Obviously, Kawhi is just a beast, but he is in a tougher matchup. Now, they are without. Memphis's defense has been a little suspect, and we saw Boogie tear him up the other day, like you mentioned. So Kawhi at 9-2 is, from what I see, at least on DraftKings, and correct me if I'm wrong for FanDuel, but he seems to be the most expensive by far as far as small forwards go. Under him, we go from 92 on DraftKings down to 71 to Carmelo. Now, the thing about Carmelo, as much as I like him and as much as this matchup may seem okay, two things. Number one, Evan Turner is back, who was one of their better wing defenders. And then number two, they've already agreed, and Melo has agreed and apparently admitted he's okay with the fact that the Knicks are going to reduce his minutes and kind of cut his minutes going forward. So what do you think about small forward? Is there anybody that kind of pops off at you?
Well, it's interesting. It goes Leonard at 9.3 on FanDuel, and then drops to Warren, who's actually 100 more than Anthony. Can you imagine us saying that a few months ago? TJ Warren more expensive than Carmelo
Right.
Anthony.
Right.
And it's a tribute to the way Warren's been playing, though.
Mm-hmm.
He's been balling.
Yeah.
So he's going against Brooklyn, which obviously doesn't scare me. He only had 22 FanDuel points last time out, so that might scare some people off. But before that, 33, 38, 41. I like Warren. And Anthony, the upside's always there. The upside's always there. If you're not going to pay up for Leonard, which I haven't quite decided yet, but then, Warren, Anthony, are a decent place for their prices for sure, at under 7,000 on FanDuel.
Right, right. And you know what? As much as I just said basically that Anthony's risky with the minutes limit, you might not have a choice. Small forward is pretty ugly today. It is pretty nasty. And especially on FanDuel, you got to roster two of them. What are you going to do?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because then it drops down to Harrison Barnes at 5.6, and then Hollis Jefferson at 4.3. So all these guys are on the first page of my phone. So all the way down to Harkless at 3.8. So you might have to roster Leonard and then pick one of these other guys on FanDuel. I definitely like Warren, and I don't. A lot of people hate Brooklyn and playing guys from Brooklyn, which I understand. I always seem to get them right, or at least semi-right. So I don't mind Hollis Jefferson if you're going if you're going lower. But yeah, like you said, in FanDuel you have to pick two.
Yeah, no, you're right. You have to pick two, and to be honest, on a slate like this, considering the fact of, I mean, you could take a shot on Kawhi, but his matchup isn't the greatest, so it's definitely just a shot. I think Kawhi is definitely I don't want to say he's completely matchup proof, but he's one of the guys. He's as matchup proof as they come. He's just a solid player. However, his matchup is tough, so you can make a case, considering there are some other spots to pay up. You can make a case for just double punting on small forward, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of doing a quick lineup on FanDuel right now, but if you fade DeRozan and Leonard, which I'm not sure is going to even be possible, but if you did, you can pretty much get a pretty good lineup without those two
Right.
And roll the dice and see what happens.
Right, yeah. And I mean, there's obviously other guys you can consider. Quincy Acey, Evan Turner. That's on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I'm pretty sure they're power forwards. But
you got Thomas, you got Carroll, you got Harkless,
right.
You got Tucker. Not much to choose from. You got Vince Carter as a punt play, who I punt every now and then. Just remember, you're not going to get more than 20.
Right.
But well, he did hit 38 a couple of weeks ago. But you're just gonna have to hold your nose and pick them if you're on FanDuel. On DraftKings, maybe you can get away with not even playing one, throwing a guard at a shooting guard that's small forward eligible.
Hey man, you might have to. It's pretty ugly there. I mean, I would assume that Warren's gonna be the chalk there. Especially on DraftKings where he's power. I mean, really on both sides. On DraftKings for two reasons. For DraftKings because he's also power forward eligible, and on FanDuel because you have to roster two. I would imagine Warren should be probably the highest owned small forward on the slate tomorrow.
Yeah, it makes sense. And just from a game theory perspective, at least in my opinion, when you go to FanDuel, okay, you got to pick two. So if you look and you see the two highest are Leonard and Warren, well, Warren is 3,000 less than Leonard. Well, he's the second highest. I'm going to roster him. It's like almost like an automatic.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you're building your rosters if you find a different combination you like. But, you can't fade everybody.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You got to play one. You got to play some of these guys, no matter how ugly they. You got to play some of them. I think it'd be interesting actually if you were to fade Warren and play Booker. I know it's not the same position, but they're similar in price. And I feel like Booker's been very inconsistent, and people aren't sure about his ankle, and they're a little worried. But in tournaments, you got to get funky, right? You got to get a little different sometimes. So if you start to think that maybe Warren's going to be mega chalk, he has shown us that he's not the safest player, even with the minutes. There's just the thing about Brooklyn is there's just too many guys that can go off that sometimes it's hard to figure out which one is.
Yeah,
You know?
that's the worst part. And it seems like they always right whatever position it is, small forward except for center. It seems like they have four small forwards and four shooting guards, and it's like who do you play?
Right.
What do you think of Evan Turner coming back? He played well. I know he played well. He's only been 3 back, 17 points, 12 points, and then a big negative 0.8 on FanDuel. But he's about 20 minutes again. Are they going to uptick his minutes, or are they going to keep him around 20?
I would imagine that they would want to start doing that, but the thing is, I just don't know when they're gonna do that. Now you're right. One thing I'll tell you for sure, I don't think anybody is playing Evan Turner tomorrow. After anybody who played him previously and received a negative score, you know they won't be on him. So to be contrarian as a punt option on a slate where small forward is really weak, I think it makes sense.
If you told me he was guaranteed 25 minutes as opposed to 20, I might have to
Oh yeah. And
take
you
that
figure,
chance.
yeah, and you figure they're gonna need him for Carmelo. I mean, we don't know how much Carmelo's gonna play. That's the only issue. But he's obviously a much better defender than Harkless. They were getting torched without Evan Turner. Harkless was getting killed.
Right.
All right, let's move
Yeah.
on to power forward here.
Power forward.
Let's see. What power
Griffin
forward
number
stand
one
out
for
to you?
you.
Yeah, Griffin's number 1 for us. How much is he over there?
He's 9,000. It's about where he's been. Going against Dallas, he's actually been a little more than that at times. So I guess he's down a little for Dallas. Once again, clearly the highest price guy at the position because the next highest price guy is Aldridge at 7.1. So you're talking almost $2,000 difference.
Right.
So you're definitely not going to be able to get all the obvious plays that like. It's interesting as we're going through here. It's like, oh, small forward's bad, so maybe you have to play Leonard. Well, this is bad, maybe you have to play Griffin, but you're not going to be able to get them all in. So it'll be interesting as you go through roster construction. But I like Griffin. I always like Griffin, even if it's against Dallas. He's always got the upside, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he's if you want to pay up, he's the only one.
Yeah, I'd love to say on DraftKings he's 82. He's even cheaper. So I'd love to sit here and tell everybody to fade him, but the slate, there's just not very many elite plays, so you can't really rule anybody out because nobody's in a great spot.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you make sure that's a great point. Look at the slate, the overall slate. So if we think Leonard's in a bad spot, if we think Griffin's in a bad spot, we think whoever, well, one of them's still probably going to hit 40, 50. Right. One of them is still probably going to have a good game. And you just have to pick which one. But yeah, tough matchup. But we go down to Aldridge at 7,100 against Memphis, and then Porzingis at 7,000. Who knows what they're going to do on a back-to-back? But both of them at around 7,000, I don't mind. That's about what they've been recently.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. And you know what? I think for value that pay attention. Those of you who are listening to the podcast, look back and see what the Knicks did against who are they playing tonight? Who are they playing right now?
Milwaukee, maybe.
No, I think that's the other
Utah,
game.
Utah.
See what they do with the minutes against Utah because I know that they mentioned getting in some of these younger guys, and I know. Didn't they start Plumlee today at power forward or something like that?
I'm not sure, but they are winning 36-28.
Oh wow, look at that! I do know that I read some articles stating that they were going to try to get they have one of the Plumlee brothers, and they were going to try to get him some runs. So just pay attention because there could be some interesting value coming from the Knicks overall between Lance Thomas, Kuzminskis, and all these guys. Especially if they decide they're not going to play Rose and Melo so much, so keep that in mind. What else you see? We got James Johnson, who typically has been pretty good. I think he dudded everybody last time. But before that, he was phenomenal in the absence of Deion Waiters. We know that mathematically the numbers support him without Waiters. He typically takes on a higher usage. You mentioned Porzingis against Portland, but you're right. We don't know for sure what that's going to look like on the back end of a back-to-back as far as playtime. Then we got Nowinski, we got Barnes, we got LMA, and we also have somebody who's interesting who It's going to be hard to get engaged on whether he's going to be chalky or not. But a guy like Marquise Chris at 5,800, any of those guys stand out to you?
Yeah, I always like Johnson, especially when someone's out for Miami. He's more consistent than the super high ceilings, but I do like to play him. I usually Nowitzki at 6,000. They're both around the same price. You drop from 9 to Griffin, then 7, and then 6-1 and 6,000 for Nowitzki and Johnson. Both of them. I'm not quite sure because then you drop down to Randolph and Chris. I like Chris. He's been playing very well. I think we've been talking about him now for a few weeks. Phoenix seems to be on the slate when we talk too. I like him going against Brooklyn. So if you're, let's say, for example, you're paying up for Griffin, a common practice on FanDuel is you pay up for one guy and down for the other since you have to start two. So if you're paying up for Griffin, maybe pay down for Chris. And then we get down to the Booker at 4.8, who's another one of those Brooklyn guys. Is tonight the night he does 30 or not?
Right.
So with Ibaka out, who would be starting for Toronto? Patterson?
I would imagine they would go back to Patterson. I'm sure he's super cheap, but he's not really a high point per minute guy.
Yeah.
But I think it does bode well for a guy like James Johnson because I think Ibaka would have been matched up with James Johnson off the bench. So I think that does open things up for a guy like James Johnson because when you look at it, that means it's going to be Pat Patterson or Valanciunas or Noriega trying to cover him. I don't think any of those guys are really intimidating. I think Ibaka's a much better defender than any of those guys. So there's definitely a point to be made. Ibaka's going to make a big impact on this game for both sides, definitely.
Great. Sorry to cut you off, but that's a great point you make. Always watch that. For when it's injuries, it's not just about the guy who's replacing. It's the opponent as well, because sometimes that matchup goes from a tough matchup to an easy matchup. So that's a great point. You look at Patterson. Oh well, do we want to play Patterson? And start thinking about Ibaka's replacement, but not necessarily the opponent. So that's a great point.
Sure. And while we're on the subject, while we're on the game, Whiteside's a game time decision, so keep that in mind. If you're gonna want to run any tools that you might use, whether it's Roto Grinders, Court IQ, or anything else, if Whiteside happens to miss, which I doubt he will, he doesn't typically miss, but it's possible. If he does happen to miss, you're gonna want to pay attention to see who gets the usage bump. Obviously, guys like Willie Reed and all that we'll talk about when we get to centers, but I gotta say, Steve, on DraftKings at least. I honestly think I like the there's a lot of power forward value. Hollis Jefferson's power forward on DraftKings. Zebo's only 4,700. Aminu's 41, and even Noah Vonleh, who's been playing in the upper 20s a minute, is 3,800. So I think that's here he is. Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson is 3,600 on DraftKings. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. So. Our boy CK03 has been sick here.
Oh yeah, sorry about that, man.
It's almost over, man.
Oh yeah.
Be interesting. Do you think San Antonio's gonna rest anybody?
It'd be very interesting.
I would love Randolph at 5.3 on FanDuel. What you said, he's 4.7 or 4.9 or something on DraftKings.
On DraftKings, he's 47.
Wow, that's definitely the San Antonio pricing, and if Aldridge or Leonard are sitting, I would slot him in there.
Sure, no, absolutely. So I definitely on the DraftKings side of it, I think I prefer the value over any of these other guys, except for maybe James Johnson. He might be hard to pass up on just because we know his usage is going to be up without waiters, like we talked about, and we know that without Ibaka, they might have a hard time containing him. Anybody else you want to talk about before we move on to center?
No, I think, but yeah, just to touch on what you said, if you do go down, you could go two power forwards low on FanDuel, Chris and Randolph or something like that. Then you can go up at these other positions we were talking about. So definitely some options. Well, it's interesting without Westbrook on the slate. The options just because it's either Westbrook and squeeze everyone in or not. Now it's like you have all the options.
Yeah, you can literally. There's really nobody that you can figure out a way to be creative and play whoever you want. It seems like
right, which is fun sometimes, because that makes it. I love the short slates, and you do some 2-game slates where it's impossible, and other times I'll $2,000-3,000 left over with the lineup I really like, which makes you got to start thinking, okay, do I just put the most expensive guys in here, or do you got to get creative
Yeah,
sometimes?
no, you're
So
right.
I
That's the
like that.
question. Do I put the most expensive guys in, or is that what everybody else is going to do? And that's what you really have to figure out in GPPs. You got to figure out what they're doing and how to be different.
Yeah, exactly. Like this after hours tonight, it's New York, Milwaukee, Sacramento, and someone else. It was like literally the Greek Freak was 10,000, and everyone else was like 6,000. So it was like you could do pretty much whatever. So you have to choose which shooting guard is going to go off that night. Is it going to be the most expensive shooting guard? It's going to be the mid tier. And what I'll do if I run multiple lineups, I will run that same lineup and then just swap in 3 different shooting guards. So I'll run everyone the same. I may have done tonight. Put Temple in one. Especially when you get a team like Sacramento has 27 of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So anyway, so moving on to center.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go on. We got Whiteside on DraftKings. He's 8,300. What's he on FanDuel?
He's 8'9".
Okay.
That's about a little bit higher than him, but that's and once again another position. He's 8'9", and it drops to Jordan at 7'7". So we have a clear lead horse here.
Well, I gotta say, when you mentioned, you said he's 7'7", DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
He's 67 on DraftKings. The next, you're still right. I mean, on DraftKings, there's still a dip from Whiteside, but it's down. Nurkic is the next guy at 76. How much is Nurkic on FanDuel?
He's 7'6". You got it goes Whiteside at 8.9, then Jordan Gasol at 7'7", and then Nurkic at 7'6". So kind of like
Okay.
last week, they're all kind of bunched up in that middle range if you're not
Right.
playing Whiteside. And that's the other difference on FanDuel. You only play one center as opposed to two at every other position, which I think can be the difference. I don't know if it's just my opinion or not, but on FanDuel, center can be the difference a lot. You pay down, and because there's only one of them, I think there's less room for error. Whether you're playing down for value or whether you're paying up. And it looks like we got, of all the positions, looks like we got a really strong center.
Yeah, of course.
Right, but you
Yeah.
can only play one.
Yeah. Yep. No. No. That's how it goes sometimes, man. That's how. I mean, I guess on FanDuel, that's pretty much always how it goes.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Especially like on DraftKings, if there's a punt option for center, you can almost always plug it in because you can make it up at the utility. You can just play another center. On FanDuel, you can't. If you can't miss
Right.
on center, you're right. If you miss on center, you only get one shot at that. So there's definitely some merit. So tell us some of your favorite plays
Before
at
we
center today.
go ahead, okay, yeah. So, Jordan against Dallas, I like his price. I think on DraftKings better at the 6-7 than the 7-7 on FanDuel. I think I'd rather go to Gasol even in a tough matchup against San Antonio, or Nurkic again 7-6. He's got that upside.
Terrific matchup.
Yeah, 33, 41, 41, 36 his last four. And I feel like that 50's lurking. Whether
Yeah.
that's tomorrow or not, I feel like it's lurking. And he hasn't actually hit 30 minutes the past two games. And he still put up 33 and 41. So I might go down to him if I decide not to play Whiteside over Jordan and Gasol, at least on FanDuel. And then you get down to Lopez at 7.2. I think we've talked about him in the past. It's that he's always the same price. He always seems to do the same stuff.
Yeah.
He's not going to get you, that super high ceiling. But if you're filling out, depending how you do your roster, or some people like to start at point guard and go down, and you go down and you got that 7,000 left for Lopez, pop him in there and hope he gets to that 35, 37.
Right, absolutely right. Brolo is a guy that, for some reason, like you said, his price just stays there. He's probably one of the highest usage centers in the league. He's pretty much the only reliable scorer on the whole entire Nets team. It's a pace-up spot. Phoenix has struggled against centers all year without Chandler, and Chandler's obviously shut down for the rest of the season. I think you're right. I love Brolo. Like you said, if we're talking upside, I would rather play a lot of these other guys. I'd rather play Nurkic or Whiteside or one of these other guys. But like you said, if I'm happy with the rest of my lineup and all I have to pick is a center and I got money left over for him, I'm fine with that.
Right, and he's a little bit cheaper. So if I haven't done the lineup, excuse me, and so he may have to slot in there. But then we're going to drop down here to Uh, so is Alan Williams going to be playing? What happened with
I
that? Was
have
so weird the other day.
Yeah, apparently he was sick and nobody decided to tell anybody. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's questionable with an illness. I would imagine he's gonna play because I mean he didn't play that game and then he had yesterday. You've had 2 days. No, no, listen, I've been sick since Monday, so if he's got what I got, maybe not.
uh, yeah. So because you drop down to again, they're all bunched up. Noel, Paul Gasol, William, 5.8 and 5.7 on FanDuel. Um, uh, I'm not sure. They would all they don't have the ceilings like guys we just talked about, but certainly in play at under $6,000 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right, and I think that with Alan Williams, I think if we find out early in the day that he's playing, I'm not gonna want him so much because the only appeal that I think he has is it could be a contrarian play. So if we find out right before lock, and this is a 7:30 tip-off time that he is playing, then I think that your chances of getting him at super low ownership are pretty high. So I would be more interested if the news broke later rather than earlier. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that leads to the next one. How much is Alex Len on DraftKings?
It's
Because
a
if
great point.
Williams is out, Alex Len may
Oh yeah. If
become
he's
very
out, I mean,
popular.
forget about it. Yeah, he's 4,500. That's a great point. He's 4,500
Yeah.
on DraftKings. So if Allen Williams is out, you've got to plug Lennon on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I'll leave that one up to you because even though you want to play the value, like you said, you can't miss on center. And a guy like Alex Len, I'm assuming he's getting the minutes. How much is he on FanDuel anyway?
He's 5.1, but that's not quite as cheap as it sounds like on
Yeah, it
DraftKings.
sounds like he's a better play on DraftKings for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talked about that, that's what definitely one of the things I struggle with on FanDuel is is picking the high price center who may get the 50 or 60, or the value who's going to get the 30 or 40, and I don't always get it right. So you have a lot of options here at center on FanDuel, and like you said, DraftKings, you can play around a little more. You can put them in. You can play two of them if you really like, or not. You can play a half. Sometimes they let you play a power forward at center. So
True. No, you're right. And that's exactly why we were saying on DraftKings he's a plug and play because you can make up the center somewhere else. Like you said, there might be a center that you can play a power for. There might be a center you can play at the utility. So yeah, it makes more sense. One guy I think is interesting. I want to hear your thoughts. Assuming only if Whiteside plays, I think Valanciunas is an interesting option. He's 5,200 on DraftKings, and I think I've done okay with him. They've been relying on him a little more. Without Ibaka, his offensive usage is gonna go up. They're gonna need him. They've relied on him a little more anyway recently, and I've noticed that whenever he's matched up with a traditional big man, he has been getting more runs. So I think Valanciunas is very interesting. He's 52 on DraftKings, and again, I like him more on DraftKings because there's less pressure on picking the center because I could pick two if I want. On FanDuel, there's more pressure on picking the center. What's your opinion on Valanciunas and on FanDuel?
um, you say that, I'm trying to think if I've ever rostered him because this year, because he's at that price. So if he's at 5.3, for example, well, if Len opens up value a couple hundred less, I'll play Len. Or if in this case Hernan Gomez or O'Quinn
Right.
we're going to be getting the minutes, I'd usually go lower or I'd go up. So I'm really trying to think if I've played him, and I know I've missed on a couple big games for sure. But he's always at that price where I'm either going either lower or higher for whatever reason. I don't know why.
No, you're right. He's not quite a value
But I
play.
do agree with what you said.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like we said on draft, I think on DraftKings it's more like reasonable to play him because, like we said, you can play a couple. But on FanDuel, that's a crucial decision, and sometimes you obviously want to go for your ceiling 9 times out of 10. So, if
Yeah.
the last thing before we move on, before we end the podcast, real quick, I'm gonna say one thing and I'll let you go. If Hassan Whiteside is out, I think you could pretty much lock up Willie Reed at
Yeah.
4,700 on DraftKings, right?
Yeah, he's 3.6, and that's exactly what right back to what
3.6.
we just talked about. Yeah, he's almost minimum. He's
Oh
3,600.
wow, he's 47 on
S-
DraftKings. I think DraftKings might be anticipating him not playing or something. He's 47 on DraftKings. See, they bumped him a
and
thousand
they,
dollars.
they tend to they tend to do that more. They'll take their chances with pricing. I feel like if someone is questionable or they think may sit or something like that. So yeah, he's almost minimum, and this is exactly what we were talking about before. Well, if he's playing, I'm going to save the 2,000 from, and then go up elsewhere. So great point to pay
Yeah,
attention to that.
it's interesting. I feel like we could probably safe enough to say if Whiteside and Allen Williams are both out, I think Len is a better play on DraftKings and Willie Reed's obviously a better play on FanDuel.
Great point. Yep, I totally agree. Totally agree.
Anything else you wanted to cover before we get out of here, Steve? It's your last platform before the big show Sunday.
No, hopefully next time I'm on, I'm a lot richer.
I hope so too, man. That hat looks great on you, by the way, man.
Oh yeah, check it out. Love it.
We're loving it,
Appreciate
man. And if you guys want to get a hat, just keep an eye on the Twitter, keep an eye on the forums. We're gonna run some promotions at some point. And don't forget, guys, on Sunday, check Steve, Fuego_Steve. That's his Twitter, at Fuego_Steve. You want to check, he's going to post a link for us to follow up on see how he's doing in the finals. If you're not a member of WiseTake.com, please sign up. Membership is free. You get access to our free raw projections and a couple other tools. We got some forums. We're going to get a Slack chat at some point. You'll be able to talk to some of the guys on there. If you're watching on YouTube, please do us a favor. Hit that like button. We really appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you're listening on Podbean, give us a follow. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to the channel. And give us some feedback. We'd love to hear it. I'm sure Fuego would love to hear it too.
We sure would.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Please, everybody, hit up Fuego Steve on Twitter. It's at Fuego_Steve. Hit him up. Wish him give him some good luck. Let's sprinkle some of that good luck on him because we want to see our boy do some good, right?
I need it. That's right. Send those good vibes. I got to take it down.
That's it. We want the good karma. It'll come right back. We promise, okay?
That's right. That's right. I'll send it back.
All right. This is CK013. I'm out of here. Fuego Steve, thanks. It's a pleasure as always. Hopefully we'll get you on next week post finals and see how it went. For Fuego, for CK, as always, good luck.
Yes.